The shadow of a shark looms near. What do you do? How do you react when every second counts? Are there secrets to surviving a shark attack? These are the questions that haunt every swimmer, surfer, and ocean enthusiast. Hit like and subscribe. This is Fierce. April 2023, 58-year-old Mike Morita was surfing in Hawaii's Kewalo Basin. It was Easter morning, and hitting the waves was the perfect start to the day. Mike had been surfing for more than 40 years. He was about as experienced as they come, but nothing could have prepared him for what lay ahead. He felt a sharp tug and realized immediately that it was a shark. Other surfers nearby watched as they saw Mike pulled off his surfboard. The power from the 7-foot shark was overwhelming. It dragged Mike underwater, and in an instant, he was left fighting for his life. Beneath the surface, he kicked and punched the shark, but it didn't let go. Mike was running out of air and made a desperate attempt to pull himself away. When he broke through the surface of the sea, he gasped, taking in a lungful of air before being pulled back under again. He couldn't release his leg from the vice-like grip. He scrapped with the shark, wrestling with it. He wrapped his arm around it, squeezing its body, trying to force it to let go. The water frothed all around him as he fought the shark. Immediately, the shark let go, and Mike rushed to the surface once more. Seeing the commotion unfold, other surfers had raced to the spot. They pulled him up out of the water onto another surfboard and began paddling him toward the shore. But Mike told them to stop. He had looked down and seen the state of his leg. It was badly mangled, and blood was pouring from it and into the water around them. Bobbing up and down in the sea, knowing that there was a predator somewhere below them that could strike at any moment, Mike's friends crowded around him. They used an ankle cord to tie tightly around his leg. It had the desired effect, and the blood loss immediately slowed. They could now paddle into shore, using the waves to propel them forward. Mike lived to tell the tale. Surgeons were unable to save his foot, but the calm demeanor and quick thinking of Mike and the help from his friends undoubtedly saved his life. Another holiday dip in the ocean nearly ended in tragedy for 47-year-old Ludmila Amak on the 4th of July. She was swimming with friends in the shallow waters off Fire Island, along the south shore of Long Island, when she felt something grip her thigh. Sharp teeth penetrated her skin, and she tried to stand up, but she was too deep. Instead, she tread water and reached down with her hands. She felt around, knowing now that she was held firmly in the jaws of a shark. She tried to pry open the jaws, but as she did so, the shark bit down even harder. Her hands were scraped and torn by the razor-sharp teeth, and she cried out to her friends. They rushed over to her, and Ludmila continued to force open the mouth to release her leg. Moments later, the shark let go. Ludmila's friends flagged out a lifeguard, and she was rushed on to the sandy beach. Ludmila remained calm. Blood ran down her leg, staining the golden sands around her. A series of tooth marks and puncture wounds covered her thigh, and lifeguards acted quickly to clean the injury and apply pressure. She was taken to the hospital, the adrenaline still coursing through her veins, dampening the pain. She received a tetanus shot, stitches, and antibiotics to stave off any infection. She had been incredibly lucky that the shark hadn't severed any crucial blood vessels. Also in July, University of Central Florida student Chris Pospisil hit the waves at New Smyrna Beach with his friend Reese Reddish. Always searching for the best surf, the two friends often spent time in the water together, but that afternoon, something was lurking below the surface. It could see the shadowy outline of Chris's surfboard above it, his arms and legs dangling in the water. Instinct took over, and the shark torpedoed upward. It crashed into Chris's surfboard and tipped the front of the board backwards. As time seemed to stand still, Chris felt the full force of the impact, and he began to fall back into the water. When he looked down, he saw the shark's open mouth protruding through the water, and its sharp teeth closed around his foot. Chris cried out for Reese before being dragged underwater. The shock from the attack hit him as he kicked and thrashed around below the surface. He could see the light above him and made a dash for it. The shark released its grip, but its eerie shadow continued to circle below. Chris thought that at any moment he would feel the crushing jaws around him once more, and he would be pulled back down. He didn't dare look below him. He just focused on getting to the surface. When he burst through into the sunshine, Reese was there waiting for him. He had watched in horror as his friend had slipped from his surfboard into the jaws of the waiting shark. He didn't hesitate to jump into action. He had rushed to the commotion and anxiously peered into the water below him. Seconds later, Chris emerged and Reese pulled him onto his board and raced toward the shore. Chris was rushed to the hospital for emergency surgery to save his foot. 7 tendons had been torn by the shark, and one of its teeth had become embedded in Chris's bone, a testament to the power of the bite. Chris had a long road to recovery and may never regain all feeling in his foot again, but he was lucky to have his friend right there by his side. Less than a month later, on August 7th, 65-year-old Tatiana Koltunyuk took the subway out of New York City to the borough of Queens. Her destination was Rockaway Beach, a place she visited most days since recently retiring. She had moved to the United States from Ukraine in the 1990s. Her husband had died within weeks of arriving, and she was left to raise their 3-year-old daughter on her own. She struggled to secure work as a marine engineer due to the language barrier, but worked tirelessly to provide for her daughter. It was early evening, just before 6 p.m., when Tatiana began swimming just 10 feet from the shore. She had been in the water a matter of minutes when she felt something run into her very hard. The force of the collision shocked her, and she immediately looked down by her side. That's when she saw it. A large head with small black eyes. Its mouth was agape. She could see its razor-sharp teeth. They were stained green with flecks of debris clinging onto them. Her heart immediately began thundering in her chest when she realized the shark was just inches from her, and she was staring directly into its eyes. It had powered into her to determine whether she was suitable prey or not. She just prayed it had made a mistake, but the shark hadn't made a mistake. It bit down on her left thigh, just above the knee. Tatiana let out a cry and watched in horror as the water around her turned red. Lifeguards rushed into the water and pulled her free, but the damage had been done. While the lifeguards shouted at everyone to get out of the water, police officers immediately tied a tourniquet around the leg. A deep gash to the back of her thigh was oozing blood. It was spilling onto the sand, and she was rushed to Jamaica Hospital in critical condition. She received 8 surgeries, 5 in the first 8 days alone. Although she had sustained a permanent disability from the attack, she survived. One of the doctors who treated Tatiana said that it was the biggest bite he had ever seen and believed that it was a miracle she had survived. It had been a very close call, and Tatiana would need years of physical therapy to overcome some of the damage inflicted by the bite. She would need mobility assistance and to change her home environment to make it more accessible. As the medical costs began to mount up, her daughter and son-in-law set up a GoFundMe page to try and cover some of the costs. As a recent retiree, Tatiana had planned to take a swim in the ocean most days and walk through the city's parks with her new puppy, finally able to relax from her years of hard work and responsibilities. But that had cruelly been taken away from her. On August 23rd, a 9-year-old boy was visiting Oak Island Beach. He and another relative jumped into the shallow water. They splashed about, jumping over the small wavelets and kicking spray at each other in 2 to 3 feet of water. A short distance away, some ripples erupted on the surface of the sea, and a school of fish jumped out of the water. But a second later, something grabbed him, and he screamed. Suddenly, the cries of joy turned to cries for help as he felt something bite down on his shoulder. Thought to be a juvenile, the shark immediately let go and swam off, chasing the school of fish further along the beach. The boy ran out of the water sporting bite marks, and his parents took him to Dosher Memorial Hospital in Southport. His wounds were only minor, and he was released later that day. In September, 38-year-old Mark Somerset headed to New Smyrna Beach in Florida's Volusia County from South Carolina. The waves were some of the best around following the impact from Hurricane Lee. He was nervous about getting in the water that morning. He had a feeling something bad was going to happen to him, but he had come all that way, and there were other surfers out there. He decided to brave the water and make the most of the incredible sets of waves coming in. While he was in the water, he noticed another shadow, and another. But the most dangerous shark is the one you don't see. When the wave had peaked and crashed into frothing white foam, Mark jumped off his board, ready to swim back out again. But as he hit the water, something immediately grabbed his head, perhaps attracted by the glinting gold chain around his neck. He felt a crushing sensation of something clamping down around his skull. He heard a crunch and thought his head was going to give way. He didn't feel the sharpness of the teeth or the threat from drowning, only the power of the bite, a force like nothing he'd felt before. Less than a second later, the shark let go. When he made it to the shallows, he leapt off his board and ran out of the water. Only when his feet felt the soft sand beneath them could he let out a sigh of relief, but his face was badly cut. The right side sported a long gash from the edge of his eye all the way down to his jaw. He needed 20 stitches to repair the punctures, but was eager to get back on his board as soon as possible. How to avoid shark attacks. Avoiding shark attacks involves a combination of awareness, precaution, and understanding shark behavior. Swim in grouped areas. Sharks are more likely to attack individuals. Swimming in groups can discourage sharks from approaching. Avoid the water at dawn, dusk, and at night. These are times when sharks are most active and likely to be closer to shore feeding. Stay close to the shore. The further you are from the shore, the more isolated you become, and the deeper the water, the more likely it is to encounter sharks. Avoid murky waters. It's harder for sharks to see clearly in turbid water, and they may mistake a human for their usual prey. Avoid high-contrast clothing and shiny jewelry. Sharks can see contrast well. Dark silhouettes and shiny objects can draw their attention. Don't swim if bleeding. Sharks have a keen sense of smell and are attracted to blood. Avoid areas with fishing and bait fish. These areas are likely to attract sharks. Don't splash excessively. Erratic movements can attract sharks. Be cautious around sandbars and steep drop-offs. These areas are favorites for sharks. Pay attention to shark warnings and sighting signs. Always heed local warnings and posted signs about shark activity. Don't enter the water if sharks are known to be present. Leave the water immediately if sharks are spotted. Remember, while shark attacks are a real danger, they are relatively rare. Most sharks are not interested in humans, and attacks often result from mistaken identity. Being cautious and respectful of their environment can significantly reduce the risk of an encounter.